So, Tom, how's your week been? Has it been all right, mate?
Not been too bad of a week. There's a few speed bumps that might have happened. Let's put it that way.
Oh, gosh,
In
really?
the yeah. A few storage capacity issues and a few containers arriving earlier than expected. But
gosh.
we'll deal with it. We'll deal with it. How's your week been?
Yeah, it's been good, mate, yeah.
Good.
Busy.
Rolling with it.
So today we're talking about whether or not the founder conundrum or query that we all face at some point is whether or not you should sell your business or whether you should keep it. So we're going to touch on that topic a little bit today, which is going to be quite exciting.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think I probably would sell the business at some point or sell part of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something I'm against, but actually as well, it would have to be the right time and place. It's not something that like I want to do. It's something I might do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it links in really strongly with like building a really good business, a really well-run business that's almost ready for sale.
Yeah.
All the time. Mm-hmm. So like preparing for sale even though you're not going to sell, if that makes sense. So ChatGPT has come up with a few different titles. So it's like exit or evolve, the founder's dilemma.
Yeah.
Should you sell the business?
Yeah.
The emotional journey of letting go.
Yeah. That's a big one.
Yeah, it's a very big and deep topic. I think the whole concept of selling a business is quite for some business owners, because it's such a big part of what you do, what you build.
Who you are.
It's your identity.
Yes.
I almost think like some entrepreneurs, when they come to sell the business, they're almost selling part of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's why I think it's such a difficult psychological thing to do.
Yeah.
And also it's very difficult to actually get a business to a point where it is saleable.
Yeah.
People think they've developed and grown something of value, but in actual reality, it's not valuable because they're too integrated into it.
Agree, yeah. It's like the expectation of a business owner when you're trying to prep your business for sale. You think, well, it's worth 5-10 times multiple, and I'm making 100, 200, 300,000 pounds or whatever. And then the reality, what is someone actually willing to pay for it?
Yeah. No, I think it really. Yeah,
it's a difficult decision for anybody to make, isn't it? Whether they should sell their business or not. And as you touched on a second ago, there, like, I personally, for me, I feel like Avenue 85 is an extension of me, and I've put 16 years worth of blood, sweat, and tears into it. Like,
yeah.
So, and it's part of my identity, and I honestly don't know how I'd feel if one day I sold it. I mean, I've heard on other podcasts, like, talk about people that have exited companies and things like that, and they're signing the paper for 3 million, 5 million, 10 million, whatever they've sold for, and then they want to experience a euphoria, and it's just not there because then you know what it is. It's like what I call what we do when we're buying products, like buyer's remorse. Once you've bought something, you think, oh fuck, why have I done that? Yeah. Like you get that probably seller's remorse. Oh my god, why have I sold it? I shouldn't have sold it. It was my purpose. It was my calling in life. There's definitely all those emotions attached to selling a business or not.
I'm just thinking, I was at an event about buying businesses actually.
Okay,
last year, and there was a guy that had just sold his business for like a couple of £1 million.
Nice.
And he the guy hosting, like, he asked, has anyone recently sold a business? And this guy was like, yeah, I have. I've done it for this. And the guy asked, it was one of James Sinclair's events, and James Sinclair said to the guy, said, how do you feel? And he was like,
flat. Yeah. Probably shouldn't have sold it.
So he's like, but I think that guy, I messaged him on LinkedIn afterwards. I was like, oh, I really liked it. Was congratulations kind of thing. Well done. And then he was like, yeah, no, I'm going to do this. And and I was like, right, okay, yeah. But that kind of like, you've exited, what next?
Yeah.
It must be quite a difficult thing to actually manage and work yourself through.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Kind of that change. If you think you've been in something for, like you said there, 16 years or
16 years,
it's like that is your life, basically.
Yeah,
Especially at our age, like I'm 34, 35
yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
You're in your 30s.
Yeah, almost 38. Yeah,
just in your 30s.
Just yeah. Still clinging on to it.
Yeah. Danny, my ops manager, he's in his 40s now.
Is it? He don't look it, you know.
Does he not?
No,
Oh,
I don't think
bless
he
him.
does. Yeah.
You trying to steal it?
Yeah, no, yeah. Is he? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think he's our oldest employee. Bless him.
Good God, right? Yeah.
But most senior in knowledge and expertise
That's
as well.
it. Yeah, I like that.
There we are. He's actually 38 as well. I'm just trolling.
Is he right? In that case, yeah.
Yeah. So today's episode, one of the companies ChatGPT has mentioned, which I thought was quite interesting, is like you do see this a lot where sometimes you'll have an entity, a business where they get a great offer to sell, and then the business goes down the pan.
Yeah,
and
declines.
Like, God damn it, we should have sold out. And then sometimes they'll get an offer, and it's like they take it, and then the business goes to stratospheric levels,
explodes,
and they're like, God, I should have waited.
Yeah,
and it's like it's quite rare that actually people sell at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
But it talks about innocent drinks,
and
how they basically did the right thing. They held out, and then eventually Coca-Cola bought 90% of the business for a lot of money.
Right.
So I know. I think it's been in the news a little bit. I don't know if you've seen it, but Strava have just bought Runner.
All right, no.
So Runner is an AI-driven app that helps develop like coaching programs for runners to, like, say that you might be training for a marathon. So I'm using them. Obviously, I'm training for that marathon in October. So Strava have just acquired them, but you can't help but think, maybe if the entrepreneurs from Runner, if they'd held on, could they have rivaled Strava?
Yeah. Could they acquire Strava?
Could they be acquiring Strava?
Yeah.
But it's gone the other way around, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
So you see that a lot, don't you? You see like a market leader acquiring either businesses because of their intellectual property, or they've developed technology that's really helpful towards the thing, or it's a threat to.
Yeah. It's competition. Take it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very interesting kind of concept, really. But it said like innocent drinks. It's a perfect example of the emotional tension between staying, exiting, and watching your legacy evolve without you. Like innocent is like, it's such a brand still.
Yeah. Huge.
But it's probably, I would say, it went through that boom.
Yeah.
And then reputationally it was damaged a little bit because the whole like natural sugars maybe not as good for you as what they said.
Yeah.
So they probably sold at the right point, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And Coca-Cola's rolled it up then, from the sounds of it.
Yeah, and take it to mass market.
Yeah. Well, they've got distribution.
Was it a British business?
I think it was.
I think it was, yeah.
From memory, it was two guys that used to work for Richard Branson in Virgin Group, I think.
Oh, yeah,
And then I know, yeah. And I think Richard Branson had a little bit to do with it in the early days. And they've obviously done phenomenally well. If they've obviously, I don't know what money they got for that 90%, but it's going to be hundreds of millions, isn't it?
Yeah.
So did they make the right decision selling their business? That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, or should they have waited? Or
should they held on?
Could they have done more or whatever? And I think that's the conundrum that we all face as business owners, is like, because you've got that entrepreneurial mind, it's like, oh, I can do more. Or from my experience, because I've been speaking to a few people about maybe selling their business to me, or or people thinking of selling their business just generally. And sometimes an entrepreneur's opinion of what their business is worth is massively disproportionate. Like, it's just unbelievable. Like, some people, they think that like it's worth a lot of money when actually it's not really worth it.
No.
And then it's like, okay. And then time moves on. Mm-hmm. And then they're sat there going, oh, shit, I wish I'd sold it for that price now.
Yeah. Maybe it was a realistic offer.
Yeah, maybe that was a realistic offer. And they'd probably come back to the table and it's like, well, it's changed now.
It's changed now. It's 50% less, I'm
afraid.
afraid.
Game has moved on a little bit.
That comes back into timings about selling your business, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And as you spoke before about preparing your business for a sale, even though you're not even looking to sell it. And that'll bring good discipline within the business, won't it? Putting, procedures and processes in place.
Yeah, massively. So, getting into it a little bit. Mm-hmm. So, business blunder of the week.
Oh, yeah.
So this is like we touched on it, I think, an episode or two ago. It's about that Philip Green and British Home Stores. So he sold British Home Stores for £1.
Right, yeah, he did.
Now, it could be the case that he sold that to get out of liability, really.
That's generally how that pound sale comes about. I think it's
Yeah,
got to be
yeah,
it's
yeah.
got to be for a nominal amount, hasn't it? So I think
Yeah.
they get traded for £1, but the people acquiring the company take on all the debt and all the liability.
Potentially see an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes people sell the business to get out of a tricky situation, which is basically what Philip Green did.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was a mad deal because, like, I mean, the guy that bought it didn't have much retail experience from memory.
No. Dominic Chappell, wasn't it?
Yeah, Dominic Chappell, that was it. Yeah, and he took on the liability of
And the pension liability, it was massive, 400 million or something, wasn't it?
£571 million.
That's a lot of money.
I don't know. Did the government step in to cover that? They must have.
Something happened. Yeah, I think they did, and I think Philip Green, because of all the reputational damage he was taking, he had to
put his
stump
hand
up,
into his pocket.
100, 200 million or something. He had to pay back because they took massive dividends out of that company for year upon year upon years.
Did he? Yeah.
Yeah.
And left it very lean.
Yeah, left it dry.
Left it dry. Yeah, it's interesting. That kind of like limited liability of a limited company.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't. It's not as limited as you might say if you treat it like your personal bank account rather than protecting it. Yeah, very interesting. So, how do you know it's time?
To sell your business.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question, isn't it? I think there's a few things that are involved in when is the right time to sell your business. I think it could be market conditions. Are you in an industry or a sector where it's absolutely booming and people are getting acquired left, right, and centre for huge multiples on revenue, EBITDA, profit, whatever? I think sometimes it might be the time to cash out, mightn't it, and move on. That does happen, doesn't it? Or are you in a declining market where things are getting harder and harder? There's mergers and acquisitions happening, competitors coming together to, just to keep going so they can share efficiencies within their businesses and the cost bases. And is it just getting that tough that you just want to get out?
Yeah, I mean, how do you know it's the right time? Because in an ideal, I think the best time to sell your business is when it's growing.
Yeah, and it's on your terms.
Yeah. As soon as a business starts to stagnate, the value of it diminishes very quickly. Mm-hmm. Because the potential investor or acquirer, they can't see that growth.
No.
Because it's like, oh, wait a minute, why is it slowing down?
Yeah.
So business owners, they don't want to sell it when it's growing.
No.
Because you're like, well, I've not hit the max.
Yeah, more good times to come.
Yeah, there's more good times to come. If I sell it when it's bigger, it's going to be worth more.
Correct.
But then actually it's the other way around to a certain degree, because if you grow it to its potential, then the acquirer goes, well, it's reached its potential. There's the value is just that. Whereas there's no like associated, well, it could be this.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of like very difficult decision that you make. Like if you've got a chain of 3 coffee shops and you've been like, right, well, I've grown from 1 to 3. I've got plans to grow to 10 and then 100 over the next 5 years. I want to sell 60% of my business to this guy, and you can pitch a really great deal. Well, it could be, but then if you sat and, well, I've grown it to 9 and things are a bit flat now, maybe questionable whether we're going to be profitable next year. Well, the business is worth a lot less.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's about pitching and knowing when the story's right, and not getting too excited as the entrepreneur. I suspect it's very interesting. Like that mindset of when it is the right. Is there ever a perfect time to sell? So I was looking at a commercial property, not a million miles from where you are. I was having a chat about probably just outside of our kind of comfort level, if that makes sense. But in relation to buying and selling your business, I got chatting to this neighbouring tenant who he'd been in his business for about, I think he'd been doing it 30 years. So importing stuff from China. I won't say the commodity or the product because it was a private conversation.
Yeah, fair enough.
But he was just kind of like, I just went over to ask him about the industrial estate and like what was going on and all the rest of it. And yeah, really friendly, nice guy. But he'd obviously made the choice, like reflecting on the conversation now, not to sell his business.
Yeah.
which is a really interesting like mindset, because he was at the point now where he owned his commercial unit, so he had a 6,000 square foot unit that he was running his business out of.
Yeah.
And then he had a 4,000 or 3,000 square foot unit that he was renting out. Originally one big unit, so he downsized slightly, split it off.
Yeah.
And gone for this, like, he'd like obviously created 2B.
Yeah.
So like he was in 2A and
Shrewd.
yeah,
Like
very, very clever. So downsized slightly, and it was just him. He'd come, turn up for a couple of hours each day, pick his orders, get them sent out. He was on Amazon, eBay,
right.
so selling some bits and pieces. He said he'd like have 4 or 5 containers delivered a year, nothing too busy or like just stress levels nice and low.
Nice lifestyle.
But
business.
he was exactly. So whereas he probably could have maybe 10 years ago, he was probably at the stage where right, I'm going to double down, I'm going to grow it, I'm going to get a growth trajectory going, I'm going to hire more staff.
Yeah.
Kind of where we're at.
Yeah. Take over more space, get the whole industrial estate.
Let's go crazy. Yeah, I'll buy the industrial estate. I'll have 17 people doing this and like going a bit crazy. But he just pivoted by the sound of it and went for that lifestyle choice of like, well, I'm going to have a really stable, safe business, no risk, no debt, just bring stuff in, sell it. I've got my little niche. I'll stay in my little niche.
Yeah.
And it's a really good alternative to what we're talking about, actually. And I think given the fact that the financial incentives to sell your business have decreased with Rachel coming into power, that's quite an interesting thing, really. The fact that, because, like, in a way, you make that big sale, but you've got the rest of your life. And if it's not a big number that's going to keep you going, well, maybe it's better just to keep the business turning and making a good amount of profit every year.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more risky because you could be in a scenario 3 years down the line where the environment changes for whatever reason and your niche doesn't exist anymore and then your business is worth nothing.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's the risk that you take of carrying on.
That's the tightrope we walk, isn't it, as business owners? Knowing when is the right time to sell your business.
Yeah, because it's valuable right now, or it might be valuable right now.
Yeah.
You might go, well, I think it's worth more in 6 months' time. Or 6 years' time. I think these things are going to happen.
Yeah.
And it comes back to ultimately entrepreneurs are gamblers.
Yeah.
We're all addicted to that kind of like, that risk taking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, is there ever a perfect time to sell? No.
Depends on your personal circumstances, I think, doesn't it?
No, yeah, I think technically there always is a perfect time to sell, but is there ever? Like, it's a hard one, isn't it? Who buys your business and why it matters? Would you sell to someone you didn't like for the right price?
Oh God, I like that. Yeah. Well, you know what? I think honestly, I think if it depends what the number is, doesn't it? And if the number is astronomical compared to what the actual market value is,
I think ultimately, if it's a fair price, it doesn't matter who you're selling to.
Yeah, you got to put those emotions to the side, whether you like the individual or not, and get the deal done.
Yeah, and you've got to know your position. You've got to know, like, is the offer going to come in later on? And actually, I think it's a very immature entrepreneur that has the concept of not liking someone.
Yeah.
You need to be emotionally agnostic.
Yes.
In business, actually. Your emotions shouldn't come into that kind of decision making, and if you like someone or not, it's irrelevant, really.
Yeah.
I disagree. I think actually it's a very emotionally immature entrepreneur that even has to consider that question.
Yeah.
Which is that's interesting, isn't it? Like, if you're in a position where you're considering selling your business, but you're debating it because you don't like the person buying it. What?
Yeah. Where's that come from? Yeah. You must see it. Selling your business is just a transaction, isn't it?
It's a transaction, and ultimately the person buying your business is doing you a favour.
Yeah.
Well, not a favour, but it's mutually beneficial.
Absolutely.
Unless, I mean, I could see a scenario where you'd feel that if you maybe they made you an offer 5 years ago and you were stupid enough not to take it, and then 5 years down the lane you're getting 10p on the pound of what they offered you. Well, you're probably going to have some resentment, but actually the resentment should be towards yourself.
Yeah, it's your own fault. Not
that person.
Yeah, that's true, because that must happen fairly regularly. Where
I think that comes down to like that personal awareness of who you are, what you are,
Mm-hmm.
and like some people. It's very interesting that actually, because some people they're in denial.
yeah,
They're in denial of like what they're, where they are, what they are,
the value of the business.
value the business. Yeah, that resentment or would you sell to someone you didn't like? Well, yeah, you would.
You wouldn't,
but
yeah.
why would you? I just whatever.
Take the money.
What would your staff say if you sold tomorrow? It depends on the conditions, actually. If you're in a business like I love the coffee shop analogy because I just think it's such a relatable business that people get. If you've got a chain of coffee shops, I think it depends on the type of entrepreneur and business owner you are.
Yeah.
If you're a caring, if you're concerned, if you're a great employer and boss, I think most of your staff would be happy for you.
Yeah. That's what you would want, wouldn't you?
If you take them with you on that journey and explain this is what we're doing, we're building to sell.
Yeah.
We're going to go from 3 coffee shops to 20 over the next 5 years. I want you to come with me on that journey. I'm going to remunerate you really well. And then when we sell to Costa or we sell to this business that wants to acquire us for whatever reason, it's going to create great opportunities for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you and your personal CV as an employee, you can say that you helped achieve this. If you pitch it in that way, then I think employees are very positive about it. If it's like a closed door deal, that like almost like the employees feel like, wait a minute, what's going on? I thought we were all in this together. Like, what's going on?
They'll feel like they don't matter. They'll think,
they
minute.
just feel like left behind.
Yeah, no knowledge of it. What's going on here? Why is he selling, or he or she is selling? Why is the boss selling? You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to bring them along with you on the journey, as you just said there.
Yeah.
Make them feel a part of it, because ultimately you need them to increase the value of your business anyway.
Yeah.
Because those individuals are the ones doing the hard yards. They're doing the work.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with someone about them selling their business, and they were saying how the buyer, they were trying to arrange a meeting date, and initially it was like, I will do it on this day because this member of staff isn't in.
Right.
But they, to be fair to them, they said to me like, well, actually, what I decided in the end was I need to have that meeting with the potential buyer when that key person's in.
Yeah.
Which was a really good mindset thing for that they said. I was like, yeah, you've made the right decision there, definitely.
Yeah.
Because you need those key people on board in the event of a sale.
Yeah.
100%. There definitely shouldn't be any resentment or like fear or frustration from your staff that you've sold.
No.
I would say so. People should be happy for you. In fact, I remember my very first job, I worked at Conti's in Disley Village.
Oh, yeah.
And it was sold as Conti's, and then it rebranded later to Sasso's. Yeah. But when it sold, I mean, in a way, it was pretty ruthless what they did. It was literally all the staff had no clue. Next day, new owner in.
Yeah.
Sale signed.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is your new boss.
Yeah.
And it created a lot of friction.
Yeah. Uncertainty as well, I imagine.
Yeah, and the new business, it struggled.
Right, really?
So I think the new business owners, they didn't gel culturally with the existing team, and maybe it's a failure of the buyer actually, and not the seller.
Yeah,
to a certain degree. But there was a lot of resentment from the existing team there towards the old owners after the old owners had left, and it was because it was like, well, we've been left in the dark. We've been building this thing together, and then now it's like boom, off into the sunset.
Yeah,
I mean, in a ruthless way. They've had that payout, and it's ultimately the new buyer that needs to make those staff members comfortable and all the rest of it.
Integrate them into the new working environment that will be
that
there.
impact on people, I think, is an important consideration for a lot of business owners when selling the business. They don't want to be in a situation where they're leaving people jobless.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's a common question that entrepreneurs say when they're having a conversation with someone about selling the business. Well, what's the plan?
Yeah.
What does the roadmap look like? Some entrepreneurs want to know that. Some are ruthless and don't. But
if you've got a conscience, you do want to know, don't you? What are your intentions?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
definitely
with the business going forward and looking after the key people that you've looked after, working alongside just to build that value.
Yeah. Emotional pressure versus strategic opportunity. What scares you more? Walking away too early or staying too long?
I think for me, I think it's walking away too early, because I feel like I've got missed opportunity. Because being entrepreneur and whatnot, you you're there, you think there's more, you want more, there's more potential here. So,
well, this comes back to a big philosophical question, which
Yeah.
is, what is enough?
that's a very good question.
That's like,
Is it?
yeah, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, you want, like, I think if you're selling your business, you want to be left in a position where you can either go again and apply the skill set to something new, which you need enough capital to go and start something and,
Yeah.
and have that energy and enthusiasm to do it. But ultimately, you'd want to sell your business in a position where you're ending up in a comfortable position where there's no pressure for the short term.
Yeah.
So I think if we were to sell our businesses at our age, it would be, the number would have to be big enough for us to take a bit of time to pause and reflect and then go again.
Yeah.
Because it would have to be an astronomical number for us to have a comfortable lifestyle for the next 50 years or whatever it might be. That we're still alive.
Yeah. Touch wood.
All the stress and pressure and everything else.
Of running a business, might have done it already.
Keeling over, and that's actually the sad thing. A lot of business owners, they sell quite late on.
Yeah.
They have that payday, if they even do.
Yes.
And then it's like they don't get the time to enjoy it.
Nope.
Which is quite sad, really. So in a way, you want to sell at the peak.
Yeah.
And maybe have that payday and all the rest of it. You definitely want to sell before you peak. You don't want to be in a position where you're selling when things are in decline or things are not as strong.
Like a fire sale then, isn't it?
Yes. You end up getting pennies on the pound. We mentioned that before, definitely. I think for me, like, my vision is probably not to sell. It's the storytelling that I really like, and at the moment I think it's about building something that is kind of wide and diverse, with different things going on. It'll never be sell the business and have nothing to do. It'll be sell part of.
Yeah.
That's probably what would happen with us.
Then you still have purpose within the group, that you're running another, that's just one, business within the wider.
Yeah, it might be that you sell something and then you look to acquire something different.
Yeah.
Or something similar that you feel like you can add value to.
Another market to disrupt.
Yeah, potentially, or like something just entirely different to challenge yourself personally.
Could you do it?
Yeah.
The first time.
Can I do it again
time,
in a different
time?
space on my own or whatever? That would be kind of like my kind of mindset with it. Another question, which links into the staff, but is there such a thing as selling out? I don't think there is.
No. I suppose ultimately, when you tie it back, it's your business. You created it from nothing.
Yeah.
You grew it alongside obviously the employees that work there. But I suppose.
I think in a way it actually links more into my thing, because like family business, Holland's Country Clothing, you've got kind of gone from Malcolm set it up, Mark ran it and stabilised it for a long time. I came in and grew it with Sarah and Rob, and it's like, well, we're the third generation. For us to sell it, it's kind of, maybe you could say it's a bit dishonest. I don't know, or not dishonest, but like.
What? Because you're not going to pass it on to the next generation.
Yeah. But I don't think that expectation should exist, because actually, the industry and space we're in is highly competitive, and like online retail.
Yeah.
Like we talked about BHS, Philip Green's empire. Well, he was in a. It's like online retail at the moment. It's like that, but I don't know. Labour might bring in an online sales tax in addition to VAT.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah, we're going to add an extra turnover tax in there. Well, it's just then not profitable to be an online retail. I don't know. There's loads of the reasons why it would be. I think continuing story on is really nice and important, but that can happen. That legacy can happen in different ways to the actual business.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. You can create generational wealth via a sale.
Yeah.
So what comes next?
After selling your business?
Yeah. So one of the listeners, I think, asked us this question, but we didn't go into too much depth. What would you do?
For me, in order to sell the business, I would have to have another purpose. I'd have to have something already either going, or my sights on something to get into straight away. I definitely couldn't sit still. I'd feel like I've lost like a part of me, like part of my personality, part of my purpose. I think I'd struggle. I would emotionally probably struggle with that if it was just like done, dusted, move on. I'd have to have something that is, ready to go.
Yeah.
How about you? How do you feel about that? Would you?
I think I would, at this point in my life, I'd definitely go again.
Yeah.
I think I'd have a moment in time to pause and reflect on the journey, what happened in the lead up to it. Pause, think about it, maybe experience, maybe go and do a bit of consultancy or work for someone else for a little bit. I'd maybe even take a job for 6 months in a completely different industry to learn about it, to then maybe go and do something in that space.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'd be quite tactical in that sense, but I'd definitely be going again. Maybe for round 2, it would be a different type of business, something a bit slower,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
because you'd have the capital to be able to start
Yeah.
something slower, which it's like almost levels to entrepreneurship, really. Like you're in this rat race where you don't have as much capital or cash. It's like fast pounds.
Yeah.
And then you end up moving into those slow pounds, like commercial property or property in general, or investments or whatever, and become an investorpreneur,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
invest in other people's businesses. Maybe that's where I think it depends on what you've sold for, really. Yeah, for me, it wouldn't definitely. Maybe we'd do more podcasting.
Yeah. Do it every day instead of.
Yeah.
More gonna like that, wouldn't he?
Yeah, live stream. That's it. Yeah. Morgan's business would be booming there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Starting lots of different podcasts. Yeah, I think going from, like, it would be really interesting the impact that would have on your mindset. This pressure cooker situation all the time, where you're dealing and juggling with lots of things, to then having nothing. Yeah. That would be quite weird.
Yeah.
I bet a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that.
Yeah. They will. I bet they will. I bet that emotionally they'll be thinking, oh, like I said a minute ago, the purpose is gone. Their lifelong, what they put the blood, sweat, and tears in, their lifelong, ambition of growing a business, and then they sell it. Yes, great, they've got a huge amount of money for it, millions potentially, but actually, was that fulfilling? Or was it the doing and operating and the being in an industry where they've got, stature and reputation and, they're a leading figure in that, and now they're gone.
Yeah, you go from being on a pedestal,
Yeah,
being respected, talked about within an industry or a niche, to then not being important.
Yeah.
That must be quite challenging, I would say. Because whatever entrepreneurs and successful founders or people say, they've all got egos. Everyone's got a bit of an ego.
100%.
And yeah, that even you've got that money in the bank account, but actually, why were we in business in the first place?
Yeah.
Well, you've talked about it being a sport for you and a hobby.
Yeah. Sport and hobby. Fell into it for a start.
Yeah.
And then it became, well, I'm going to have to do this to source of income. And then it became, much like a sport and hobby to me, where it's like, right, because it's numbers, in it, like, right, and that's the reflection of how you perform. And so then it's like, right, can I do better than last year? I need to do better than that, year on year. And then it probably becomes addictive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Emotionally. And
we're definitely addicts.
Yeah.
I would say. Like, Morgan, would you put yourself in the category of being addicted to entrepreneurship and business yet? Like, how do you feel like you're sat today with that, like, level of integration into entrepreneur? Do you feel like you're infected? You're in it for that? I mean,
I'd say I'm addicted by it, but, like, I think that plays into my personality type as well. So, like, if you take somebody who isn't kind of like, because I'm ADHD, because I'm dyslexic, it fits so well to work on my own time, but fill all my time with work. Whereas other types of people would be in this position and they'd go, oh, I've got loads of time free, and so they wouldn't do any work. And so I think once you get into the groove of it, it does become your personality.
Yeah. And the other thing is, like, what type of business you're in.
Yeah.
Because some businesses are very difficult to sell. Like, Morgan's business right now wouldn't be overly saleable, but in 5-10 years, it's about where you are in the journey.
Yeah.
Like, because you see a lot of business, like, I can think of competitors and even businesses that I've spoken to, and they're too in the trenches.
Yes. Yeah.
The business is too dependent upon you as the owner.
Not saleable in the current.
It's that difference between understanding like directorship and shareholdership, being a managing director running the business, and then being a CEO or an investor or a shareholder.
Yeah.
And they're like different stages. And actually, the most valuable point to sell is when you're operating as a shareholder only.
Yeah.
When you've got that team in.
I think one of the interesting things that I've come to find from my experience in business is if you go about trying to start a business with all the systems in place straight away, where you're trying to stay out of it, it can be really painful to get it off the ground.
Yeah.
And theoretically, this thing that you're about to build is going to be hugely saleable, but if you don't have a working business, then you have nothing to sell. So you're better off starting that where you are a fundamental component, and then kind of slowly but steadily moving into a systemized business.
I think over time, that naturally happens. So you build you have a vision of what the business could look like, and that evolves over time. But like Morgan says, it's impossible to systemize early on. So founders and entrepreneurs, you're in the trenches, but it's about understanding. And if you're listening to this, you then need to go from an operator to a manager.
Correct.
And then from a manager to being a leader.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the key journey, actually. So,
and only then, are you ready for sale once you're in that final position?
And it's just a dial that you turn slowly, and understanding when to turn it and take your hand off the dial and just sit.
Not to accelerate the rotation of the dial too quickly.
Yeah, because what Morgan's point there is that I'm going to systemize too early on. It's like, well, wait, what's going on here? Like, what business are you systemizing?
This is where I think like some of the best businesses you can start if you're, if you want to start a business, is something that will help successful businesses systemize things, because you're going into something that has cash flow and needs help. If you can help them build a system, then that's something that's going to keep running, creating that recurring revenue. And then you'll be good at systemizing, so you'll be able to systemize for yourself.
Yeah, I think, and interestingly, actually, after sale, that's something you can end up in, is like consultancy, where you don't want clients where the business is struggling. You want clients where you can add marginal gains.
Yeah, that make all the difference.
The odd percentage here and there, definitely.
And that ties back in selling the business. It adds credibility to an individual in the industry, doesn't it? Like, Matt Holland, Hunch Country Clothing sold out for, 5-10 million. And then you go into consultancy and e-commerce about marketing. And
it legitimizes you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, I think we wrap the episode up there. So next week, we've got a really good... This one is, I think it's going to be a heavy hitter. I'm bigging it up.
Yeah, you are now. What is it?
Yeah. Episode 20.
Oh, good God. Yeah.
So I think just because it's episode 20, it's going to be a big one.
Yeah.
But it's burn the boats when playing it safe isn't safe.
Yeah.
So it's all about the concept of being all in.
Like it.
So that mindset of like, you cross the bridge, you burn the bridge down, so you can't. It's like a mentality thing.
Yeah, there's no going back.
So I'm looking forward to that one. It's something that I think in the earlier days I was big on, but I've kind of moved to more safer ground now.
Yeah.
I think that's a journey that you go on, but we'll save it for the next episode. So anyway, cheers, Tom. We'll see you. I'll see you next week.
See you next week. Thank you very much.